Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience podcast. Today I have with me Emily Wise. Emily is a mom, wife, and podcast manager. She's worked in many fields, including medical and sales, and found her love of all things podcast through working as a general VA. She is also launching 2 podcasts of her own in March. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thanks for having me on your show.
My pleasure. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
So that's kind of interesting because I always hated technology and I was very afraid of it. Way back when I graduated high school, I joined the Army and ended up getting discharged for a disability about a year and a half later. Married, moved around all over the place, just did a variety of jobs in doctor's offices, hospitals, went through part of a nursing program, realized I hated working in hospitals, left that, just did all sorts of stuff. My last job was a salesperson selling mattresses, and I hate salespeople, so that was really fun. But I ended up quitting that. It was very stressful. I was working all the time, never saw my family. My husband and I decided that it would be okay if I quit my job to stay home with our daughter before she went to kindergarten. And we ended up needing some more income when she went back to school, and I looked around for jobs I could do from home. I settled on virtual assistant. I found a great company called Time, Etc., and started working through them and started learning all sorts of cool stuff. Through them, I got a couple clients that I was helping with their YouTube channels and their podcasts, and really started to love it. Podcasting is so cool. It's a different format than a radio show or a TV show, and it's just a lot of fun. And so I decided to specialize in just podcast and YouTube support. I figured I probably should start a podcast and a YouTube channel and show people that I can do it before they hire me, right? So that's how I got here.
No, that's great. And I think if you're able to, I encourage everyone. I mean, it's a good, branding opportunity, as well as, showing your expertise and then showing who you actually are, as an individual, what makes you unique. And like we talked offline, it doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be overly salesy. It should represent who you are and what you're about, because oftentimes when you go to a conference or a networking event, it's just that top level, hey, how are you? What do you do? It's not. With the podcast in 15, 20 minutes, you can really drill down and get to know a person like really deep.
Yeah, just listening to somebody talk, the way that they talk, the way that they listen, the way they respond, you learn a lot.
Yep. And I switched over to an interview format last March after my grandfather passing in February. And I think I did it for a reason. It was like very therapeutic. So
Mm-hmm.
since then, I've spoken to like 125 people in terms of interviews, and I've gotten something out of each interview. And sometimes we've talked about, certain traumatic things. Sometimes we didn't. But I think it was a great therapeutic mechanism for me to get me through that time. And it's, I kind of ran with that format.
Yeah, I could see that. I've tried the therapeutic thing. I have CPTSD from being raised by a narcissistic mother, and my husband has combat-related PTSD. And so I tried going on a podcast and talking about that, and it was a little too emotionally heavy. So I tend to stray away from too deep stuff now, but I can see how a lot of people would really like to do that, and it could be really cathartic for them.
Yeah, and I think leaving it up to the guest and having the conversation go wherever it naturally goes, because like you said, if you don't want to share something, you won't necessarily, touch on it. So
Mm-hmm.
getting as deep as you want, as, top level as you want, and still adding value either way.
Definitely.
So what motivates you to succeed?
A big one is my family. If I don't succeed, I have to go back and work outside of my home. And with our family dynamic, that doesn't tend to work as well. I have a teenager and a 7-year-old. I'm now homeschooling the 7-year-old. Public school didn't work out so well. So, if I can't work from home, then I can't do that stuff. I can't be here to make dinner and take care of our dogs and I'd love to say keep the house clean, but with 2 kids and 3 dogs, it doesn't happen. So, yeah, it's definitely, and I love helping people. So if I can have somebody who really loves doing their podcast and they hate writing their show notes every week and they hate updating their website and they're dreading all that, if I can take that from them, I'm a happy girl. And then they're happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very key component in the podcast process because the listener doesn't see how many things really go into, you know, editing the audio, doing the actual interview or the show itself, recording, getting, like I said, the audio to sound as good as possible for the audience, then promoting it, creating the show notes. If you do a transcript, creating the transcript, putting it, if you do video format on YouTube and other
Yep.
platforms, putting it on your website. So there's a lot of steps. I mean, right now I have 34 episodes in queue. So it's just like it's like a conveyor belt in terms of like everything has to be regimented, because if you're like a one person show, you can fall behind really quickly.
Oh, it's exhausting. And then you add in like an audiogram and images for the different social media platforms, because Facebook is a different size than LinkedIn and blah, blah, blah. It gets to be a lot. It gets to be a lot for one person. I'm doing all my own editing right now, and I've promised myself that as soon as I can afford an editor, that's the first thing I'm outsourcing.
Yeah, I mean, I have to outsource some of it. I actually enjoy, like, I wasn't in audio editing or like a sound engineer, but I like learned because I was interested in the process.
Mhm.
And now I actually like doing it, but now I don't have the time to do so. So
Yeah,
now I can do it if I need to, but I need to, you know, take that off my plate.
yeah, for sure.
So what's one thing you may have seen as a weakness in yourself in the past that you've turned around and utilized as a strength today?
So I was diagnosed with Asperger's just a couple of years ago. So I'm in my mid 30s, and I always thought just something was wrong with me, right? I didn't quite connect with people the way I wanted to. I would totally nerd out about things that maybe other people didn't have an interest in. Um, and then just need to go and be by myself for a while because I'd get very overwhelmed and anxious and blah, blah, blah. So, learning that, I've actually been able to use that to my advantage. I get to be very personable on video and with people in limited amounts of time, and then have learned to kind of take care of myself so that I have the energy to keep doing it. But also that love of doing research and learning new things has helped me tremendously, because I don't have to come back and ask you a million times what you need. I know I can go Google it and pretty much find it on my own and work it out. And that's something a lot of my clients have appreciated. And then I can teach my kids to do the same thing, because my daughter's the same way I am. So that's why public school wasn't working very well for her. So they, and then being able to help her as a mom and recognize what she's feeling and what she's going through, and being able to help out and say, hey, instead of being like, why are you acting this way? I can be like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. Let's try this. Not that it always works, because I am human. But yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's important, obviously, you're diagnosed with a condition, but in general, for people to have an emotional IQ, to
Mm-hmm.
understand and have empathy to situations or how other people approach certain situations, or you, because you're not, another person isn't going to handle a situation or interaction with you like you would, handle it. So you
Yeah.
shouldn't expect someone to come at it with the same mindset, because oftentimes, why didn't they do it this way? Or why did they say it like that? Well, one, it's a totally different person. And then, two, there's things going on there. There's maybe emotional stuff, emotional turmoil, stuff going on in their personal lives, or, a diagnosed condition. So,
Mm-hmm. And it's been one of those things where I really had to look and say, okay, am I being too rigid with this one thing? Do I need to give a little bit? Because I have the tendency to want everything to fall in boxes and go a certain way. And working at these other places around groups of people, I realize now that that's why that didn't always work out so well, because I just couldn't, I had a hard time seeing it from their perspective. And I've gotten a little bit better at that. But it's been a major effort. You really have to especially when you communicate through email a lot or texting. You need to just think about where the other person is coming from, because they are probably not going to react the same way as I am. And I either need to not read so much into it and get upset, or read into it a little bit more and be a little more understanding. So
Yeah, and with that, and a virtual, it's 2020, so there's a lot of parts of the economy. People are virtual or on the move, or simply if they have an internet connection working from anywhere in the world. So, like you said, the email example, if you get an email and it may sound passive aggressive or it may not, either breaking it down a little bit from the person that it's coming from, or not looking too much into it, like you said, depending on the situation, because
mhm.
oftentimes you can just give a general response and not inflame the situation, and find some kind of workaround, because oftentimes you don't necessarily have to fight a battle because there's not one there. But if you approach a situation a certain way, it may escalate for both parties involved.
I think that's where technology hinders personal relationships, because you can't see their facial expression and their body language on an email. Um, I use the Grammarly Chrome extension when I write now and when I write emails. So I'm always going for that little smiley face in the corner. Because if it's the neutral face, I need to like make it sound happier. And that's helped a lot.
Yeah, even well, some people just add it. They'll be super passive aggressive and then put a smiley face emoji at the end, like kind of
No,
like soften it a little bit.
no, it doesn't work. You can still tell they're being passive aggressive. I'm really, I'll read an email like 3 or 4 times sometimes just to make sure that I don't sound like a jerk. Um, it takes a lot more time than it should, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I think with technology, we're like as connected more so than we've ever been, but also more disconnected that we've ever been with technology. So
Yeah.
like we have access to the world, but we're not being personal. We're not seeing other people's emotions, their perspectives, their point of views. It's just kind of on the go, this, that, like, comment, share kind of mindset.
Yeah. And we're not experiencing the world either, because we can see it in a picture. So why would we go do it? You know, that's, I think we need to get better about that. But I think that's a different comment thread. So,
Yeah, and I mean, it's also social is pretty much a highlight reel, so you're not seeing nobody's really putting, well, some people sharing
yeah.
what they've went through, what they where they got or what they accomplished or what they're going through now. Just I got XYZ or I'm doing so and so, but they don't see like the depression or the late nights or this and that, all the struggles, because people don't necessarily want to like it. They don't want to, I guess, expose that within themselves or put light on it, like if when it's a internal conflict within them as well.
Well, yeah, we want everything to look like it was effortless, and we're so good at it that we don't ever have any issues. We're excelling at life or adulting or business. There is no struggle, right? Because we don't want to let anybody see that part of us.
Yeah, I
So,
agree.
yeah.
So, what's one piece of advice you may have for the audience?
um, to quote Shia LaBeouf, just do it. So, if there's something you want to do, like quitting that job, it was a good job. It was a good paying job. I was an area manager for a few stores, company car, blah, 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 right? I was so stressed, but I was so afraid to quit because I was afraid that our financials would suffer and whatever. You start freaking out about, oh, we're not going to be able to eat. It worked out fine. It worked out fine. Um, so you don't need to have 4 years of plans put in place. Go with your gut. If something is hurting, stop it. If something feels like it's the right thing to do, go do it and stop being afraid about it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think people overthink certain decisions and want it to be the perfect time. It's never
Mm-hmm.
going to be the perfect time, and if you want to start something or do something or go a different direction, you might as well do it now,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, you're if you tried it, you're not going to necessarily regret it. If failed at it, you can use it as a learning experience, take something positive out of it, and then
Yeah.
pivot. But if you don't do it at all, that's the kind of things people, 20, 30, 40 years are laying there. What if, it's all the what ifs. What if I did this? What if I did that? It's simply just
Yeah.
starting. And if you can't, like, okay, 24/7, I'm going to, focus everything on it, do it on the side a little bit, transition into it. Not everyone's journey is the same. So,
Exactly. I mean, you don't want to look back in 30 years and say, "Man, I really wish I had done that." So just go do it and have fun and be nice to people while you're doing it.
yeah, I agree. And I think for me, adding value and just kind of being as authentic as possible, because online, even, in person, there's a lot of phoniness and a lot of people looking for something
Yeah.
in return. And just, either going on a show, doing interviews, writing, putting information out there in terms of my expertise and my experiences, and not really asking for anything in return, just kind of adding to my overall legacy of what I'm giving back to those around me.
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of merit in giving more than you take. And so when you're having these relationships, I mean, not allowing people to like suck you dry, but to give value, give good things, give kindness, whatever you can. Um, it's just good for everybody involved, especially you. You're the one that actually ends up benefiting the most.
Yeah, I agree. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate you stopping by today. Can you let the
Yes.
audience know how they can find you?
Yeah. So you can find me at wiserva.com. Um, it's the best place. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, Emily Wise. I'm on Facebook a little bit, probably more than I should be. But wiserva.com is my website. Yeah, if you need any help with anything.
And then the podcasts that are going to be launched?
Oh, yes. I guess I should mention those. So this Friday, which won't be this Friday by the time this airs, I'm sure. This Friday is March 6th. The Bad Clients podcast will be airing. Uh, you will be my guest on there at some point next week. And then the other one is I'm co-hosting a podcast called Dark Spirits. Bad Clients is pretty self-explanatory, right? Dark Spirits is about haunted places and alcohol. So literal dark spirits like whiskey and hauntings. So
Nice.
yeah, it's supposed to be a lot of fun. My co-host is awesome. She's amazing, and it's going to be a great time. So Bad Clients is more of a business where we kind of talk about our bad client experiences and then what we learned for them. And the hope is that if you're dealing with a bad client situation or you are a bad client and you didn't realize it, you can change things up a little bit and make life a lot easier for everybody.
That's awesome. I really
Thanks.
appreciate you stopping by today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Bye.